Right, here we go. 5 red lights. And it's lights out. It was a short hold there. Who's got the best reactions? It looks as though Brindy's had a pretty decent start. He's going to be challenged, I think, by Rigsy into turn 1. And yes, he is. And Rigsy taking the lead. He muscles his way past us. We've got some carbon fibre off in the background there. A bit of front wing. I think someone's got some damage. But it is Rigsy straight away into the lead. And Czech's challenging Brindy for P2 now. He's looking down the inside as they head onto the back straight then. Brindy just about holding on to P2 now as they go down the Wellington straight. I think Czech's going to go for the move here down into Brooklands. Looks for it round the outside. A little bit of contact made between the pair of them. But I think Brindy is just about going to hold on to the position for now. We've got Van Dorn and Bunny battling it out behind. And Van Dorn now going for Czech as Czech gets wide on the exit.
Here comes Sam as well.
They're going to be going too wide by the looks of things. Side by side, Sem and Czech into Cops. Who's going to get the better run? It looks as though it's going to be Czech just about holding on to P5. But after what was seemingly a pretty decent start there from Czech, dropping back a little bit after a mistake on the exit of Luffield. So it is Van Dorn then up into third. Owen tips him for a podium and he's going about it the right way. But what a start that was from Rigsy, James. 2.1 seconds ahead already, the Renault driver, as we just about end the first lap. We're about to end the first lap in a few moments. I don't know if you caught what happened at the back there. We saw some debris sliding into the gravel on the exit of Abbey. Did you catch who that was?
No, but I'm guessing by the fact that Matty's in the pits that he's the one that's picking up damage. The one thing I did notice was that awesome drift that Sem did around turn 1. I'm not sure if you saw it, but yeah, on my screen it was absolutely awesome, the drift that he did through turn 1 and then able to hold it as well. Not really too much to report, to be honest. Just looked like a pretty nice clean start apart from that bit of damage to Massey, and still side by side now McEwen and Clock fighting it out for I think this is P11. Connor's not gone anywhere. In fact, he's gone back. Oh no, he's not. He stayed the same. Sorry, my timing's all messed up. Did the same on his wet setup. But yeah, great start from Rigsy. Although Brindley now starting to close that gap back in.
Yeah, perhaps just settling down a little bit. As we have got then McEwen, as you say, battling it out with Clock for P10 as the timings have just about sorted themselves out. McEwen then getting very wide though out. Cops and Connor smells blood. He's going to try it into Maggots. Has to back out though. McEwen had the racing line and now he's coming under pressure as well from Jib Jab. Contact between the pair of them, wheel to wheel. Other than that, they've both gotten away without anything too detrimental. But look at this. Behind, it's all heating up. Taz is pushing Ranga. They're battling out. He's going to try it around the outside of Stowe. This could be a stellar move if he pulls it off. But I think just with the slightly damper track on the outside there, has to back out. Didn't get the grip that Ranga seemingly got on the inside. So Jib Jab them up into P11 past Connor. But other than that, they remain the same. We've got a few more guys into the pits as well. McEwen and Liam both pulling off into the pits. And yeah, Brindy already now bringing that gap down to Rigsy. Like I say, just probably settling into the race. And of course, as soon as I go away from it, Taz is going for the move round the outside at Village on Ranga. He's going to try and get it back through the loop, but bit of contact made. Ranga couldn't quite get the switchback that he was looking for. And I think Taz is going to get himself up into P13 here. It looks a bit treacherous out there on these inters. Drivers seemingly struggling for grip, especially in the high-speed corners that they're taking flat out, or at least trying to take flat out in these wet conditions. As Ranga getting the curve there on Luffield, getting loose on the exit. Did well to hold the car as it looked destined to go spinning round. Definitely tricky conditions in these opening exchanges as Ranga just running wide there. Cops and picking up a penalty. But this battle's definitely not over as Taz now is looking to get past Connor as well. So this wet setup as well doesn't seem to be working in Connor's favour either, as I think Taz has just recorded something there as his car jerks back on the straight. But yeah, Riggsy just under a second now from Brindy, and then it's Van Dorn P3, 2.5 seconds back to him. So the top two seemingly establishing themselves in this race. But Van Dorn, great start from him, up to third, and he's got a second to Czech, who is now back into fourth. So he's gone past Bunny as well, James.
Yeah, now I think we're just going to see just how difficult it is to overtake around here. Really Boy definitely seems to have the edge at the moment over Briggsy, but I think he's going to really struggle to get past that Renault. Same with Sem on Bunny. Yeah, he's going very deep. That's the problem. In the wet, the optimal line is of course the racing line, and whoever has that into the corner is quite likely to stay ahead, as Bunny has done there. And we've got McEwen, no sorry, that's Massey off. But yeah, I think we're going to just see it all calming down a bit now, and yeah, maybe not as many overtakes as we would like, although Brindy closing right up to Riggs again. Any sort of mistake from the Renault and he will get past. But yeah, just all settling down now, and the top two really starting to stretch their legs.
Yeah, this will be a tough one if Brindy can sustain this pressure throughout the race. It's always tough driving in the wet, let alone when you've got a car right on your gearbox for what could be practically the whole distance. Of course, the undercut is very powerful in the wet, and especially at a track like Britain, one of the longer laps on the calendar. It does mean that you could gain some serious time here. Of course, the pit lane as well, the longest, I believe, on the calendar. It's around 30 to 32 seconds, I think, time lost in the pits. The Sem's really pushing this McLaren. He's throwing it around as he, again, getting a little bit of a drift on through Abbey. I get a little bit worried every time I see Sem go through a corner. He's really sending it, full send, committed driving from the McLaren, and it looks to be paying off for him as he's right on the back of Bunny now. He's going to look for a move, I think, down into Brooklands, but Bunny's got some good straight line speed. Sem's going to have to go for it half-hearted, really didn't quite commit to the move, and Bunny keeps his Mercedes in P5 for now, but I don't think that's going to be the last we hear from Sem this afternoon.
No, I shouldn't think so. He's looking very racy on the back of that Mercedes, of course, isn't he? Taz as well, all over the back of Connor, who just seems to be struggling even on that wet setup, so I'm not sure if there might have been a bit of damage involved, but we've still got Brindy also pressurising Riggsy, but oh, and as I say that, Bunny just went behind Sem, or sorry, Sem went ahead of Bunny on my screen, but I think that was just a lot of lag, so it looks like Bunny might be lagging a little bit, or that's the first time I've seen anything like that, so not really too sure what happened there. It's all going a bit weird for me tonight for some reason, but yeah. Nothing really in terms of overtaking, nothing too much to report.
Does seem to be bugging out a little bit. We've got Lewis O'D up a couple of positions off the start, of course benefiting from McEwen, his antics on the opening few laps, and he's gotten himself past Matt as well. Clock's up P4, up 4 from P14 as Lewis has just gone there, so we put the commentator's curse right on him as he goes off at on the exit of Abbey. He's I think into the wall as I tried to get an angle on it, but I did a brilliant job at that. He's also got 10-second penalty for exceeding track limits. It's rather rubbing salt into the wound, so I've mightily jinxed Lewis there. Clock's up 5 now from where he started. Taz is the other driver to have gained a few positions. He's up 6. And in fact, Dylan as well up 5. He's up into 14th. So yeah, good starts from those guys. Everyone from 9th to 15th up positions off the start, as we've had 4 drivers into the pits or in a spin on the opening few laps. Other than that, towards the front anyway, not too much going on in terms of position changes. Of course, Van Dorn and Riggsy both getting past Brindy and Czech respectively. But other than that, it's been relatively quiet for the top 8 thus far.
Yeah, and also one thing to note out front is Riggsy has a significant
pause. I think James was going to say battery advantage. which he does 30% more than Brindy. So yeah, really, like James was going to say, at least in terms of battery deployment available in a stronger position than Brindy. I suppose, like James did mention earlier on, it's really going to be the straights where the move's going to be done. And if Risi can get good exits and use that battery, then he should be alright. But, well, to do that consistently without making any mistakes for 20 plus laps is no mean feat. So it's definitely going to be a tough one, I think, for Rigsy to sustain this pressure from Brindy, who I would say is perhaps the faster of the two as it stands, but it is pretty tight towards the front. Are you back, James?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
I don't get what's going on tonight. Every time I speak, something seems to go wrong with the Xbox or the game, or
Technical difficulties.
yeah, as you said, yeah. But Rigsy started with quite a significant battery advantage, which will obviously help with defending and just make it even harder for Brindy to try and get past.
Yeah, of course, in the wet as well. I mean, the downforce that, or the dirty air that Brindy will be getting from Rigsy, it will kind of be enhanced really by the wet. Of course, you're kind of just lacking the grip. There's not really going to be much of an advantage in that, in the wet. Of course, kind of understeery as well, always in the wet, I find. But like we kind of mentioned earlier, the undercut is pretty powerful around here, as we've already got a car into the pits as Brindy Boy picks up a penalty for warnings. Now that could be crucial as this race progresses. We've got TMS Matt into the pits then. That's an early stop for the Red Bull driver. Although it's only a few laps actually outside of the pit window, and like I say, if someone's looking for an undercut, the tyres should be alright to go to the end. So maybe that's a tactical play from the Red Bull driver looking to get a bit of an undercut. But we've got Jib Jab now right on the back of Clock in this battle for what is P8.
Simon Bunny Harry again.
Oh yeah, down the inside. Didn't look like the door was ever really open there for Sem. Bit of contact maybe between the pair of them, but thankfully they both hold position and there was nothing more than that. I only caught the end of it, of course, so I'm just saying it how I saw it. There might have been a bit more of a gap for Sem to go through earlier on into the braking zone. But yeah, thankfully neither driver getting any damage or anything more than just a little bit of a tap through there, as Brindy again right on the back of Rigsy, but just can't get the move done. Hence we're not really paying too much attention to that at the moment. I guess Rigsy, as we've got a yellow flag, that's Connor off on the exit of Chapel. Has he got any damage, James?
Yeah, I think he does. I think the left hand side of his wing completely gone, and he got stuck in the barriers as well, which is pretty unfortunate. So that's one of my least favourite glitches with this game, the fact that the barriers are really buggy and you kind of get stuck in them. But yep, he's now back facing the right way, although he'll be going into the pits, of course, to get a new front wing on.
Yeah, real shame then for Connor, who unfortunately didn't seem to quite get the benefits of running a wet setup, it would appear. Yeah, as I was saying, kind of this battle between Reese and Brindy at the moment, I'm not too worried about there being a move as well. I guess Sem and Bunny are a prime example of how difficult it is to overtake. I think Sem probably is a bit faster than Bunny at the moment, but just can't get the move done. But of course, Reese really can't let Brindy get an undercut on him, because if he does, then I'd imagine Brindy might be able to pull away and extend his gap to over 3 seconds, which would of course put Rigsy outside of the race lead. So it's a tricky one for Rigsy, because he doesn't want to pit too early in case the tyres go off later on in the race. This kind of goes for anyone in a similar position, of course. But if he pits too late and Brindy gets an undercut on him, then he might not even have the chance to defend for the win anyway. I'll tell you what, James, Van Dorn's having a very strong race. He's only 2.2 seconds. Excuse me, 2.5 seconds now as the gap goes up, of course, off the back of the front two, and he's got 4.5 near enough to check behind, so he's in a very strong position. almost in a world of his own out in P3, but a very solid drive so far from him as we now start the 10th lap of the race.
Yeah, it certainly is. He was good around Austria last week. I think it was top 5 after penalties and stewards and all of that jazz. But yeah, looking like another very strong result here again at the moment. Sem's still all over the back of Bunny. But yeah, I think this could be a battle that goes on right to the end of the race, or at least it's looking like that at the moment. And Brindy still behind Riggs. I'm sure he'll be getting quite frustrated at that. But I should think we'll see an undercut from the Williams driver if he wants to have any chance of winning. I think he's got the pace to pull away. If he can avoid any more penalties, he might be able to do it with an undercut. But other than that, Riggsy in control in the lead with a lot more battery and doing what he needs to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess these guys should be looking to pit in the next few laps. As you see there, Brindy actually gaining a lot of time through Magnus Beckett and Chapel on Riggsy, but just down the straights, he can't challenge the Renault. Brindy really low on his battery as well. The pit window really for these guys should be open now, really, anytime from now. And then the next few laps as Lewis has left the session, so if you could invite him back, please, James. But yeah, shout out to those guys, 8th to 13th, all had some pretty solid starts to their races. Sam gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits. That is something that you can ill afford in Division 1. But yeah, all those guys moving up positions. Clock up 6, Taz up 8, and Dylan up 7. And the other 3 up 4 each. So yeah, they've all had some pretty solid starts. They've avoided the trouble. And they're getting on with their races pretty nicely here. Lewis is still, still right on the back of Clock as they look to now battle out for P7. It is as Sem's in the pits, of course. It'd be interesting to see where Sem comes out in relation, because TMS Matt was only a few positions on track behind him. I wonder if he had a wing change or something, because he seems to be a hell of a long way back now from the McLaren of Sem, who was only a couple of positions further ahead on track.
Oh no, there was some huge gaps in between them all, Harry.
Oh. Yeah, there are actually. Yeah, look at that actually.
Feels really spread out because of these wet conditions.
The gap between Bennett and Bunny, and then Jib Jab has now gotten past Clock. The gap between those guys, yeah, look at that on the track map. It's huge. So yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, because I haven't actually really noticed just how spread out the field is. So yeah, would you say that Sem and Matt haven't really gained or lost anything to one another in that exchange?
Yeah, it looks like it wasn't the sort of gap that I've been keeping much of an eye on. As Brindy Boy does pit to try and get the undercut, he's followed him by Czech and Bunny as well. And yeah, Van Dorn's setting the fastest lap of the race, so there's still life in his old intermediates yet. It'll be interesting to see
the Clock's coming in as well.
Whereabouts Bunny ends up in relation to Sem, who seems to be on a very good outlap at the moment. This could be crucial for both their races if Sem can get in front here.
Yeah, we've got Dylan then. He's being followed pretty closely by Predators, who's got a lot of battery at his disposal. Another driver that tends to favour the wet. He's having a pretty solid race.
Penalty.
His predecessor Sem now hits up a penalty as well, as you say. Yeah, we've got some guys having some really nice races out front. I guess perhaps just looking for maybe a bit of an overcut, or having to go a bit longer because their teammates are pitting. But obviously a VSC or a safety car now would be really good for some of these guys. Riggsy then, hitting this lap for him might be a bit awkward, because he could come out just behind Predators, which of course was really the undoing of his race last week. Nothing against Predators, but obviously Riggsy trying to go for the move on him resulted in, you could say, his race becoming undone. But I think Riggsy has got to pit to cover off the undercut of Brindy, which he is. Van Dorn then staying out for another lap, James. So, like you say, definitely some life still in those inters, and he's looking to go long on this set and really utilise the fresh rubber later on.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of an interesting decision, because Sem gained about 2.5 seconds on Bunny from the one lap undercut. So, yeah, Sem almost that 3 seconds ahead after the penalty he picks up. So the undercut extremely powerful, as we suggested it might be. So very surprising that Van Dorn stayed out, but if it pays off for him, then fair play. I think Brindy's probably going to get Riggs here as well. So that could be a costly mistake from Riggs there to stay out that lap extra, although he's not lost anywhere near as much as Bunny did to Sem. So yeah, might have been a bit more to that than what we saw.
Yeah, Bunny losing out massively to Sem, as you say, but has 8 seconds less penalties than the McLaren. It's going to be interesting now to see if Brindy can clear Predators quickly or not, because the longer he stays behind the Ferrari, the more chance Riggsy might have of sneaking back ahead of the Williams driver. You do fear for Riggsy's sake that Brindy might be able to pull away, given the signs in that first stint that he was the faster of the two. As we've got McEwen and Lewis battling it out for P11, it looks as though McEwen's gotten up past the Racing Point driver and taken that position. We've got 5 drivers then towards the front, I believe still yet to pit. I think they're the only 5 as Van Dorn now does come in. This will be an interesting one, James, as Brindy and Riggsy have been stuck behind Predators this lap. Van Dorn's gone long, had some very strong pace as well. Could be interesting to see. He might get himself right up into this battle for the lead.
Yeah, he might.
Predator stays out another lap.
And according to Owen, there's only apparently about 10 minutes left of this rating. So for the likes of Bennett, Jib Jab and Taz, who all haven't pitted yet, if they can hold out and the rain does end, then this could be a really good strategy call. But
Well,
yeah,
maybe that's exactly it.
Van Dorn is
Maybe they are going long and trying to wait till it dries out.
Van Dorn is behind this group, but if Predators can keep these two behind him any longer, then Van Dorn could, as you say, get himself right into this battle for the lead.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, maybe those guys at the front then are trying to wait out till it's dry. It's definitely a plausible strategy at this point. If, like Owen says, there is only about 10 minutes left until the rain stops. But of course,
it does look like
Jeff's
it's
saying
easing up,
10
doesn't it?
minutes. Yeah, Jeff saying 10 minutes though doesn't always mean that it will be 10 minutes. But yeah, like you say, I was going to mention that. In fact, it does definitely look like there's a bit less rain than before. I'll tell you what, Sem has continued actually to grow that gap to Bunny. It's now up to 3.5 seconds, so he's doing pretty well there. Brindy then right on the back of Predators in this battle for what is, I suppose, P4 then, if the idea that these guys are going long is the case. It looks as though he is going to be able to get the move done though on the Ferrari driver and put a car in between himself and Riggsy, which is going to be crucial. But having said that, Predators, he's done Riggsy a solid this week and let him through there, James. Interesting there from the two of them. Of course, we know Riggsy and Preds get on rather well, so I wonder if that's just a little bit of a favour there from Preds towards his friend there. You know, we see them from time to time. It's not like we're not accustomed to those sort of things, and perhaps, you know, we know Predator's a pretty smart driver. He knows where his fight is, and perhaps just knows that there's no point holding these guys up for longer than he really needs to.
Yeah, I think his main concern at this point will just be looking after those tyres as long as he can. Still got his full battery as well, which is pretty big, but yeah, I think he'll just be trying to look after those tyres. He'll know that those two behind him aren't really in the same race as him, so yeah, he'll probably find himself losing more time and putting more strain on his tyres by trying to fight them. I should think Van Dorn right in the back of him now as well. If he can get close enough, then it shouldn't be too difficult for him either.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because Riggsy has still got quite a bit more battery than Brindy, so he's going to use this. I'm interested to see if he can stick with the Williams driver like Brindy was able to stick onto the back of Riggsy in that first stint, because in fact Brindy as well has the yellow fuel light on, so it suggests that he's actually under the amount of fuel that he'll need to finish the race. So if and when it does dry up, Riggsy will have the advantage of the fuel and battery at his disposal over Brindy. But as it stands, it looks as though that gap isn't really coming down, but thankfully for Riggsy, it's not going up by much either, and look at this. It's Riggsy's teammate they're coming up to just ahead in Taz, and it's a second and a half the gap to him, as they've really reeled in these guys. Their tyres are definitely going to be going off, but it's a strategy that, if it pays off, could see these guys right into the points come the end of the race.
Oh, Van Dorn has hit the back of Predators. I think he might have got away without any damage there. But yeah, that's just the risk that being behind a guy that's not pitted yet, especially in wet conditions, that's the risk of that. As I think Predators is clipping that incident, which is slightly surprising because neither of them lost anything from it. I shouldn't think. I'd be amazed if Predators got any damage because it was his rear where the contact was made. But yeah, if this, as you say, going back to what you just mentioned, if this strategy call does pay off for them, which I'm starting to get more and more concerned that it won't. But yeah, if it does, it could be really big for some of these guys because they are effectively net top 3 if the rain does stop. Although yeah, as I just said, sorry, it's not looking too likely that that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, it is still brightening up. I'll tell you what, James, Taz is having a fantastic race, up 15 from where he started. He's battling with Bennett, who started P7, and Jib Jab, who started 13th. Taz started 18th, as Jib Jab does pit, so he's not confident the tyres will last. But yeah, Taz having a great race. He's got 87, nearly 90% of his battery, which is far more than the 2 in front of him, or 1 in front of him now it is. So he's having a very good race here, but it does look as though the tyres are starting to go. The sky is brightening up a little bit, as Bennett has gone very slow through the first couple of corners. I thought he might have been letting Taz go. I wonder if it was just a mistake, as Brindy's now down the inside of Taz.
Brindy and Riggs want to be really careful not to trip over these guys here. Taz should just pull over and let his teammate through, really, if he's playing the team game, but it looks like Riggs is just going to get him anyway. So that's
yeah, Taz not really trying to fight it, I don't think.
Yeah,
Takes a very wide line there and lets Riggsy through. Yeah, smart driving from the pair of them. Taz, of course, should the skies clear up, would be in a net P4 as it stands. So I guess kind of no need for him, like you say, to trip over his teammate. So yeah, it's slightly surprising actually that Bennett is in the same vicinity as Taz. Two drivers that started 10 positions more than apart have found themselves running right near one another in the race, so perhaps that says a bit more about Taz's pace than it does Bennett's here. As Brindy's going to look to go for the move and put a car in between himself and Riggsy yet again. I don't think Bennett's going to be as inclined to let Riggsy go as Preds was. But yeah, Brindy then is now back up into the legitimate P1 as opposed to what was a net P1 not too long ago. And it's almost stopped raining actually, James. It's getting very light now. And there is some sort of, not dry line, but a line that is drier appearing. As you can definitely see a bit more of a pronounced racing line on the circuit.
Yeah, to be honest though, if it doesn't dry up, I'm very surprised that Bennett stayed out, because he'd been kicking himself the last couple of weeks with a few bad strategy calls, I'm sure he won't mind me saying. But yeah, I think interesting one if it doesn't pay off for Bennett, because throwing away some good points here if it doesn't pay off for him.
Yeah, I think, I wonder if Riggsy's made a bit of a mistake there.
Yeah, he did.
Brindy's now 2 seconds ahead of Bennett, and Riggsy is, well, he was on the back foot right out of the loop there and had Taz right behind him. So,
yeah, he went
Riggsy
very deep through,
feeling the pressure, maybe.
went very deep through farm, I think it was.
He's going to go down the inside into
That's bold.
tops. Whoa, what a move. Given the conditions, Bennett, credit to him, didn't really put up much of a fight, but that was bold from Riggsy.
Yeah, it was a bold overtake.
He knew
Taz
he couldn't
get
afford to
well.
lose ground.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Taz has got a lot of battery. He's really pushing the Alfa Romeo. I think he might go for the move here, James.
Gonna try and run the outside. Oh, squeezed onto the grass.
Bit of a squeeze.
Right on the limit here. Both of these guys obviously on extremely warm tyres now as well. Don't really want to be fighting too much. The tyres are going to be horrible.
Oh, they're going to go side by side through Vale. They are practically glued to one of the Van Dorn's now going to try it down the inside. It's really understeery. He does well, it's a miracle really that he didn't get spun round there, as Taz now back down the inside into Abbey, picks up a penalty for his troubles, but he is now past the Alfa Romeo. Van Dorn's going to have a look down the inside, but Bennett goes deep and just about remains ahead. But this is getting a little bit feisty out front. It's kind of the only real battle going on track, as you see all the gaps behind a second or larger. So this is the main focus of the race at the moment, as Van Dorn now really pushing Bennett, who does seem to be struggling on these old tyres, and it doesn't look as though it's going to be clearing up soon enough. I mean, it's going to have to come pretty much now for these guys if they want to get there. Of course, yeah, you don't need to pit in the wet, so you can do effectively a no-stop race. So 7 laps to go. It's almost at this point, it almost isn't worth pitting at this point, and you might as well try and go to the end, because if you pit, you're going to get nothing, and if you get punched, you'll get nothing anyway. So maybe you're right. Maybe it is worth just trying to go for it and try and go to the end. So as it stands, then it is Brindy Boy from Brigsley. Taz, I suppose it is in P3 then, as it stands, with Van Dorn on way fresher tyres up to 4th. Bennett really does seem to be struggling. He's dropping back now. He is currently P5 though, with Czech in 6th. It's Predator still in 7th. So yeah, those guys that have still yet to pit, they're still going relatively strong inside the top 7. It's then Sem, Bunny, McEwen. They round out the top 10. Definitely an interesting one, as it's really light now, the rain. I think if it is going to dry out, it is going to be relatively soon, but it's all well and good when the rain stops, but you've then got a couple of laps or so when the track's actually, or till the track is actually dry enough for the slicks. So it is really going to be like the last 2 laps or something on slicks, and at that point, would you say it's even worth going on to the slicks, James, if you're the likes of Brindy and Briggsy? Perhaps it is if you're Taz and your tyres are just screaming for help at that point. But yeah, if you're the likes of Brindy and Briggsy, is it even worth pitting for 2 laps on slicks? Should that be the case?
Well, we're looking at the fastest lap. Well, I'm looking at the fastest lap here. It's a 36.1. You're doing 27s, 28s in the dry, I believe. So,
and it has now dried out.
Yeah, I think.
Or stop raining.
Yeah, looks like maybe a lap or 2, and then they'll pit, and that will definitely be worth it. They'll gain about 8 odd seconds from that, which is of course the length of a pit stop. So yeah, 2 laps to go though, maybe not so much, although obviously wets on the dry track will be quite a bit slower than what they are here, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Wow, what a move. What a move. Czech got really loose there on Chapel, nearly lost the car, and I quickly switched over to Van Dorn, who was going for the move on Taz. And I know that Van Dorn's got way fresher tyres, but even so, he went clean round the outside at Stowe, despite Taz trying to defend the position as stoically as he could. He wasn't able to. Van Dorn had the grip and went right round the outside. That was a fantastic move. As I say, the rain has stopped, but of course, Taz is not in a brilliant position, because should these guys go on to slicks, he's going to either have to go an extra lap, or he's going to have to stack behind Briggsy, which will lose him a bit of time. He is thankfully at this point though within or not within 3 seconds, which would mean that he's got a stack right behind Briggsy, so that is at least a bit of a benefit. But the track is still very damp. There's a lot of spray coming off these tyres still, so I don't think it is ready for slicks yet. Like I say, it is going to be those last 2 or 3 laps max on the slicks, as Czech's now looking to try and get 5th place off of Bennett. It's going to be another driver trying it down the inside into Cops on Bennett. Bennett tries to defend it a bit more this time than he did on Briggsy, but again, just that lack of grip compared to the Ferrari driver wasn't really able to do anything there. As we've got a couple of guys in the pits now. It's Liam and Massey. Don't tell me they're going on to slicks, James.
Yeah, they are, and Ranger's also on slicks as well, which we hadn't noticed. But yeah, Liam and Massey both pitting for the softs as well. So 3 drivers right down the back end of the field going for it, and yeah, too early, I think.
Sem's gotten past Bennett now as well. It's way too early for slicks. Surely no one can be pitting for slicks. Brindy does set the fastest lap though on relatively old tyres, which does suggest that the track is drying out, as you do tend to go faster on a slightly less wet track on the inters. We've got a yellow flag set to 1.
That's massive.
Is that a lapped car? Yeah, it's a lapped car. I was getting a little bit worried for a second as we saw some yellow flags in and around where Brindy Boy and Riggsy were. I thought one of the two had gone off, but thankfully for the race's sake anyway, they didn't. As again, we've got some more yellow flags, but I think that is just Massey getting out of the way. We've got Predators now back battling with Bennett. These two, of course, still yet to pit. They don't have to, but they are still yet to pit. And they're now battling it out for P7 as Predators having a look down the inside. He's still got pretty much all of his battery, has the Ferrari driver. Might be about time to start using it, might you think.
Might be about time to pit as well.
Bennett,
Look at the track. It's getting there. For sure.
It is getting there, but as you see Bennett's car, they're still kicking up a lot of spray. I thought it was almost going to be the third time Bennett got overtaken into Cops, but not quite. Predators having a look into Myers, but nothing going quite there. Is he going to get the run out of Chapel and use that battery? There's a Hassoff in the background again, but I think, again, that is just Massey. We've got them Predators. He has got massive overspeed right down the inside into Stone. He's got the move done. So good move there from Predators. And now Bunny right on the back of these two as he's going onto the wet part of the track to try and cool his tyres down a little bit, as they will start to rise in temperature on this drying track. But I don't think it is going to get the slicks for the end of the race. Like I say, at this point, I don't think it's going to be worth it. It'll be interesting to see if Taz can hold on for a few more laps ahead of Chet. There's 4 laps to go. The gap is 2.5 seconds, but it is coming down rather quickly here. It'll be also interesting to see what the tyres, percentage-wise, are like at the end, as we've got a Hassoff again at the final corner.
Can we get the tyres up, please? The tyre selection that the guys are on at the moment. But yeah, I think 2 laps to go. It's going to be really
Bunny on
tough.
Bennett.
Some of these guys that stay out the whole race might find themselves having to pit just so that their tyres don't get punctures. But yeah, Bennett actually 100% battery. Predator's pretty much 100% battery as well. So interesting that these guys aren't really using it, but they might still be trying to nurse the tyres all the way to the end here, because I don't quite think it's going to get dry enough for the slicks. Yeah,
Brindy Boy's still with the least amount of battery than all these guys, and he's still got the fuel light going. That could be interesting because the gap is currently 4.6 to Riggsy. I believe Brindy's only got 3 seconds of penalties as well, so he's got nearly 2 seconds clear, as I think Rigsy's again made a bit of a mistake as the gap's gone up a little bit there. So yeah, if Brindy Boy is to run out of fuel right at the end, it could be pivotal in this race, as he's I wouldn't like to leave it this late myself, but you never know. Seems as though it's kind of the traction zones, or the heavy traction zones, that Taz is really losing out in to check as Bennett does come into the pits. I'd imagine for slick tyres, but it's still not dry enough on the track.
No,
you can still see a hell of a lot of spray coming off.
Can we start getting votes in for drive of the day as well, please, guys? Oh, he's gone to another set of inters.
Yeah, I think he had to at this point, but it's kind of a bit too late, unfortunately. It was a stoic effort, really, from Bennett to try and last until the dry period, but unfortunately the dry period has come, but it's just too late at this point.
Predator's still setting personal best sector times as well, so fair play to him on those 23 lap old intermediates they are now. So I think that might be a combination of the track getting a lot drier as well, as the track does look pretty much dry. I'm actually really surprised that Bennett didn't opt to just go for the softs and take a bit of a gamble. Yeah, I'm pretty shocked that he went for another set of inters, to be honest.
Yeah, but we've got all the softs runners still getting out of the way, so I'm not sure it is still dry.
Yeah, but he had to try something enough, though, didn't he?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. But I think at this point it might have just been worth him trying to get to the end. I'd imagine his tyres aren't looking too healthy. Talking of someone's tyres not looking too healthy, look at Taz flirting with the traction. He's really struggling on these old tyres, but he's doing well. He's in P4 still, He's keeping Czech at bay, at least for now. But it's going to be a mega effort, I think, for Taz to hold on as Predators picks up a time penalty. That's a rarity right there. Someone clip it. No. Yeah, Predators as well actually having a fantastic race in P7. One of only 2 drivers now that hasn't pitted. I'll tell you what, McEwen in P9 has had a fantastic recovery. He's on 21 lap old inters as well after pitting early on. So he's had a very good recovery drive back up into the points after an early pit stop from him as Rangers retired. Is that on the exit of turn 1? I don't quite know how that's happened. It's an interesting spot to have retired in. I wonder if he's just lost the car in the treacherous conditions, as it still isn't quite dry enough, or it might be just about now, but it's too little too late. Sprinty Boy is going to stop the last lap with the fuel lights still on, but he's got 3 seconds to Rigsy when taking his penalty into account, but the fuel light's now gone red. So this could be interesting as we start the final lap. Czech still pushing Taz. This is a mega drive from the Renault driver. If he can hold on to, well, if he can get 6th, let alone hold on to 4th, it's a brilliant drive from him. And it's valuable points in the joint constructors as well for Renault, who are trying to capitalise on what's seemingly been a pretty tricky afternoon for Mercedes, as Czech's the one losing the car. It's not Taz, it's Czech, who I think is obviously pushing extremely hard to try and get past the Renault driver, but he can't do it. Taz is driving superbly, and Sem now is going to be the one going for the move. So Sem on Czech as opposed to Czech on Taz. He's having a look down the inside, but again, he doesn't really commit. It's a half-hearted little look down the inside, and he's not going to be troubling Czech. Look how much he gains through the corners though on the Renault.
It's looking like Taz is going to bring him drive of the day as well, and it's looking like a top 5 finish after penalties. So yeah, what a fantastic drive from him, and what a great call in the end to stay out the whole race on that one set of inters.
Of course, yeah, I forgot about penalties, but yeah, we still got that going. Brindy Boy's still got the fuel light on red. I don't think it's going to quite be an issue though to him. So I'll try and catch Brindy Boy. Brindy Boy does cross the line now to win the British Grand Prix. It's going to be Rigsy in P2 here. Good drive from him after taking the lead early on. I'll tell you what, Brindy had 6 seconds of penalties, James. So that got very close at the end. Had he run out of fuel a little bit earlier, that might have been it. And Czech is going to get Taz on the line.
I think Taz got a puncture. Yeah, rear left puncture.
Anyway, Taz got a puncture and Sem got put into the wall. I don't think it mattered though, as Sem had an extra penalty. So Taz does take P5. Sem comes home in 8th in the end with Bunny 6th, Predators 7th. So another P7 for Predators. Good drive. Taz did finally get a puncture at the end, but what a drive from Taz and Predators, both not pitting. 26 lap old inters, brilliant from the pair of them to take 5th and 7th. Matt comes home 9th on debut to get some points with Jib Jab 10th. Unfortunately, penalties lost McEwen a couple of points after a good recovery from him as well. It dried out right at the end. DRS finally becomes enabled, but it was, like you say, too little too late, but brilliant drives from the lot of them. And that's class from Sem as well in the chat, straight away saying Taz driver of the day, despite their little interaction, should we say, at the end with Taz's tyre blowing up. Yeah, great stint from Taz, as he says, to get the tyres to last. I want to know what they were on at the end. They must have been extremely close to the edge. Well, in fact, they went over the edge, of course, right at the end there. But yeah, the fact that it was only the final corner that Taz got the puncture at is rather remarkable. But Brindy Boy then back on top. He had a week's absence last time out in Austria, but he makes it 4 from 5 and wins the British Grand Prix here with Rigsy in P2. And Van Dorn, Owen said he was going to get a podium, and he delivered with a brilliant drive in P3. So the Toro Rosso again. The AlphaTauri driver takes P3. P3. And as Amico says in the chat, it wasn't a boring race. It was a brilliant race, in fact, and a lot of good racing from everyone. Despite the tricky conditions, we still saw a lot of action and some brilliant strategy from the likes of Taz and Preds. Maybe Bennett is kicking himself, but his tyres seem to be a lot worse than the two guys in front of him who hadn't pitted. So there you have it then. Fastest lap as well for Brindley Boy, but he did make it easy for himself. 6 seconds of penalty and running out of fuel at the end almost cost him what would have been a relatively comfortable victory after it had all settled down. Rixie comes home P2, a good drive from him to extend or to keep the pressure on his championship rivals, and well, extend Renault's lead in the joint constructors championship with Taz's P5 as well, adding to that. So Taz as well had 6 seconds of penalties and still held on to P5. Remarkable drive from him. Van Dorn third with check fourth. Bunny comes home P6. Considering he pitted, to come home 6th isn't bad. Preds 7th, the only other driver to not pit. It was then Sem in 8th with Matt 9th and Jib Jab rounding out the points. If we could get the podium finishes in the party, that would be great. And yeah, what a race that was. That was brilliant. And well done to Taz, of course, for what was seemingly a fairly unanimous driver of the day.
Yeah, not often you see a no-stop race at all, and yeah, a couple of drivers doing it as well, which was pretty surprising. But fair play to Taz and Preds for trying it and working it out.
Right then, who we got in the party? Who have we got? We got Brendan. We need a Rixie, and we need Van Dorn. There we go. We got Rixie. No, we've not been watching the race. Never got in the lobby. Right, there we go. We got everyone in. So I'll first off just like to congratulate the top 3 on their races, and then I'll hand it over to James for the interviews. If James is alive.
Hello. Yeah, my controller went again. Alright. Podium interviews. We will start with your 3rd place driver for today. First podium in SLR for SLR Van Dorn. Looked like another good qualifying again, like last week in Austria, and another good drive, another good haul of points. Weren't quite able to keep up with the leaders, but yeah, first podium, so I'm sure you'll be pretty thrilled with that. And just remember to tick your boxes as well, please, guys.
Yeah, it was a good race. I liked it. I like racing in the wet, so I enjoyed it. I started to catch up with Briggsy and Brindy, but then we pit, and I got stuck behind the Kaz there a bit. But then after that, I realised I wasn't going to catch them, so I just settled for the P3 and just kept it back.
Yeah, we saw you also stay out quite a lot longer than the others around you. Was that always your plan to try for an overcut?
Oh yeah, I was planning for the overcut because my tyres were feeling nice still, so I just thought I'd try and take it a few laps and see what the gap is to Brindy and Briggsy, but ended up coming out in front still.
Alright, still overweight P3 and a first SLR podium, so congratulations.
Cheers, mate.
We will move on to your 2nd place man, just pipped by 6 tenths in the end was Rixie, but Brindy always seemed to have a bit of a pace advantage throughout that race after he got past. But yeah, I'm sure he'll be pretty happy with second, but also maybe a bit of a question of what could have been.
No, it definitely is just a matter of what could have been. Because I don't really know what happened at the start with Brindy and everybody else, but I had like a 3 second gap after lap one, and I was like, oh, all right, I'll take that. And then Brindy just kind of managed to stretch his legs. Van Dorn was kind of closing the gap doing the bit T, but the first stint was purely just don't bin it, don't pick up any warnings, don't do anything stupid, because it's a long race. And I was expecting Brindy, as soon as he got into, I was going to say in DRS range, but as soon as he got like right up my rear end, I thought he was just going to go for it. But like, I don't know, I think it was just ERS management was kind of an overdrive at that point, just to kind of use it, also to keep him behind. And I thought in the first stint, pace, I don't know what Brindy was like on in clear air, so I couldn't take that chance. So I kept him behind as long as I could. Pit stops came, narrowly missed out on the overcut. And then traffic. I'm trying so hard not to get angry at traffic, because I think traffic really did play a part in that, especially when Brindy was picking up track penalties. So, and we were actually doing all right with that. But I think it is just a matter of what could have been. Still absolutely chuffed with second. Like back-to-back podiums is never a thing to kind of frown at, but it really is just a matter of what could have been. I'm just kind of reserving my mood now until I see everything back, because like as soon as we kind of caught up with Taz and Bennett and that, we just couldn't. Like Brindy, sorry, just took advantage of it, and I just unfortunately got kind of caught up in the crossfires because they were battling for the rain race. So it was just a matter of taking chances, and we just never took ours.
Still, either way, though, good points for Renault in the joint constructors bid, and
Definitely.
good points for yourself in the championship fight. So yeah, well done on P2 once again.
Cheers.
We will round off once again then for the third time or fourth time, I think, even now in 5 weeks. Brindy Boy, once again, your race winner. Picking up a couple penalties, but even so, the pace in the wet, once you got past Riggsy, just seemed to be, quickest in the field, really, from what we saw. So, yeah, another victory and another great drive for yourself after a disappointing race last week.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, last week wasn't very good for me. I wasn't very happy with my performance at all. So to come back this week and sort of make up for that is kind of nice. Got jumped on the start by Riggsy. He had a great start, managed to get past me, which was fair enough. And then, like he said, he managed to just pull like 2 or 3 seconds in the first lap. And then I kind of started, after I sort of realised and sort of settled into the conditions, I started to catch again. And then once I got to about half a second, I just couldn't do anything. I would get really close, and then he just had really good straight line speed, so there was nothing I could do. And a bit of ERS management as well, which is why I decided to go for the undercut. It was so difficult to overtake, so I went for an undercut, managed to get ahead, and I think the sort of defining moment in that race was Bennett. I managed to get past and then pull about 2.5 seconds until before Riggsy got past. And then I picked up my second penalty, which was really frustrating. And at that point, I thought race was over. I thought it was P2 for me. But just kept my head down, try as hard as I could to pull a gap, and then it started to dry up. So grip was just constantly improving. And yeah, I really didn't think I was going to win it after I picked up that second penalty. So to come away with the win I'm really happy.
Yeah, and as you should be, more great points for your championship bid, and yeah, extending your lead once again with another victory. So congratulations to yourself once again.
Thanks.
All right, that'll do it for the podium interviews this week, Harry.
Right then, so that rounds off what was a fantastic British Grand Prix there. A very wet British Grand Prix as well. A race which was won by Brindy Boy from Riggsy, and then Van Dorn rounding off the podium. We had some brilliant drives throughout the field, of course, notably Taz and Preds both not stopping in the race, but of course due to it being a wet race, not needing to, and they came home 5th and 7th, with Taz as well taking home driver of the day. Next week is Hungary, the Monaco without the barriers, so that might be a bit of a more subdued affair, but it's Division 1, so anything goes. We will have to wait and see, but join us next week then for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you all for watching, and good night.